You know, one of the real keys of catching fish is finding fish. Actually, right now we're on Red Lake, and Red Lake is just monstrous flats. And what we're doing right now, we just got out and we're just initially started cutting some holes, but the real key is to find bait. And these fish actually rove over these giant flats. And what we're using right now is Mega Live to find bait fish and hopefully walleyes. And you can see right here, directly that way, about 35 feet away, there's probably a great big school of perch or shiners right out here. And then we're seeing some intermittent bigger fish blips off the bottom. But you can look at this right here, and it's quite interesting that there is bait here. That's one thing, that these fish are just constantly roving around on these flats. So Jeff, I know one thing, 36 feet that way.
That's my cue, isn't it?
That is. So you're gonna go cut a hole over
when you're the auger man. And that is the cool part about the system. We'll go over there, we'll drill that hole, and then James will go scan that, and we'll really kind of dial in where we think that the optimal spots are going to be. So James says 30 feet that way, that means go.
We'll see. We'll see if it's go time. That's probably walleyes right here, and you can see there's a great big school of perch right here. And those are about 30 feet out that way, Mr. Simpson. That might be a good hole right over there. You can see that, you know, these are just massive flats out here, but these fish are constantly chasing these big schools of bait, and they're constantly wandering. So look at that right there. Those are probably walleyes right there. You know, we've actually been out here and we've actually cut a number of sequences of holes which we weren't seeing any fish. This is the first area where we've actually seen bait fish and fish, which is a good sign. I'm gonna go examine another spot over by Mr. Simpson here. Okay. But what this enables you to do is to obviously, right now I'm actually at this Mega Live set at about 80 feet. So what I'm doing is looking in an 80-foot circle all the way around us where there's any type of bait fish. Boy, there's a bunch of them. That's right where Jeff cut that last hole. Look at this, all the bait in here. There's a whole bunch of bait right in here. Right below us right here. Big school of bait here, Jeff. Well, what do you think? There are some bait and stuff. We could start here, at least as the first spot that we've seen some amount of fish.
Let's see if we can call something up. Yep.
Okay.
Like James, Lindner, and I are up here doing the early ice walleye thing, and you know, generally that's a really good time to get out and ice fish. But as soon as those cold fronts start moving through, you can come the first few days after that, and it can be tough. Well, we got here and it's just an absolute beautiful day, and we're moving around, spotting lots of fish, but they're pretty inactive, coming up, looking at the bait and swimming away. And then, you know, the wind has come up here later in the day, so we brought along our portable shelters, popped those up, and got the heater on, everything nice and comfortable in here. And when that happens, also a great time to put down a dead stick, put down a bonus rod. And when these fish will move in, I'm seeing fish move in 3 to 5 fish schools, and I might get one jigging, and you also get a bonus fish on that dead stick rod. So that fishing inside the shack definitely has its advantages, especially when the weather and the wind conditions increase. Ooh. Waldos. Cool. Rascals. What's that? Ooh. Fishy. Cool. Well, those fish now, there's a fish right down there right now, so I got to get back down there. But they come through in schools, and when that's the case, boy, you got to get back down on those fish. So you're up here on these first ice walleyes, generally a pretty proactive, pretty aggressive bite. So really a lot of fun. Those fish move in on sonar and come in and grab your bait.
One thing on the flats in here, these fish are just wandering around all the time. So you got to sort of set up in an area where the fish are wandering in that little area, but they are moving every time you come out here. You don't fish in the same spot from day to day. The fish are moving that fast. But then again, there's no really defined structural elements like contours out in red. This is a big, gigantic, it's just really very, very tapered flats. And there's no weed edges for distinct edges that the fish would hold on, so the fish wander in here tremendously. Oop. The dead stick. Ooh, nice one. Come here, buddy. Ooh, come here, buddy. Yep. Come here, come here. Trying to get his head in the hole. There you go. Not a biggie, but the dead stick works. This guy here is about a perfect of an eater.
He's staring at the minnow. Oh, there he comes, right there. Woo! On the board again. Rascal walleyes. Rascal walleyes. It's so cool. That first ice bite can be dynamite, to say the least. You know, you get these fish are really active early in the winter, and if you can get out on these lakes and get a pulse on the bite, boy, it is a good time to be out on the ice for sure. And they wolf it. I'll tell you that right now. I'm gonna get my little picker. There we go. Using that new coffin spoon from Northland, and that has a rattle in that. I used that last year, and it is a great option. And they're coming through, and it's really fun when you're using the sonar. You can see them come in, boom, they smack that thing. It's a hoot. You know what is cool about using a dead stick in combination with your sonar while you're jigging is that when a fish moves in, you're like, oh, a fish is below me. And it may look like it's right below your jig rod. Well, that fish was just hanging there. And when I lifted it up, it stayed on the dead stick rod. I can actually see that bait flicker even though it's 2 foot away from where my transducers go down the hole. So what I did, I let it sit there, and he did not hit that. I lifted it above him like 1.5 feet and started jigging more aggressively, and that fish just rushed over and engulfed the bait. So that's the one thing about having this dead stick. They might be, if they're a little off, they might come up and hit that. You might attract them in with your jigging rod, and they'll fade off and take the dead stick rod. So it's a 1-2 punch. Get it? He got it. Huh? The dead stick produces. And up here, it's one of those little eater rascals right there. Nice, that's your classic. That's a little small, we'll let that one go. But it's another, your classic example of how that dead stick will produce bonus fish for you. You know, I believe I've been jigging pretty aggressively, you know, calling those fish in, and they're a little off today. And so they might come over. I saw that the fish come over and look at the jigging minnow, the jigging rod, but then, you know, tailed off, and I had that dead stick down, and it went over and grabbed that dead stick. So bonus fish.
Go down the hole, please.
Here we go. Slow. Cool. Yeah, let's go on. Yeah, so I got, you know, just using, you can use a jig, you can use a spoon, whatever you need, but you need to have that bait anchored. So I'm just tipping this. I'm using the coffin spoon, and I'm using a pink and white coffin spoon. And that's another thing. In this, on certain bodies of water, color can be a real thing. And I'm kind of dialed in with gold and red or pink. What I like to do is basically I reverse hook this minnow. So I'm gonna hook it right behind the dorsal, and that will allow, when this weight, it'll fight against that weight. So it'll try to swim away and swim away. So when a fish comes in, it's naturally gonna swim away and pull the bait, but it's gonna drift back. Because it's weighted, it's not gonna get too far away, and those fish can ambush it. So even though I got my sonar down my jig hole, there goes my my other one. You saw it flash by there. So I can see, you can see it jigging up there. I can set, even though I'm 2 foot away, I can set this within 3 inches of bottom. I'll just set it back here. Set that rod, I'm back in action on that one. I like, that's another thing. You can set those up high, but again, these fish are coming in on bottom. I like to keep my dead stick within, 6 inches. It seems that they come up and they'll hit it. I'm not using a bobber, and they'll hit it and they'll start to go down. If they have too far to go down, they'll feel that tension and let go. So I like to keep it kind of down there, and that way, because I can see what's going on in both holes, I can monitor it. I knew that fish was on the dead stick, so I moved my eyes over to the rod tip, boom, saw it take the bait, got him.
Seems like a little bit better activity level. It's a little bit lower light. It's about 4 o'clock, so we don't have much time. Oh. Look at that. I didn't move. I didn't jig the bait that time. Shoot. Unbelievable. Wow. Did you see that? Wow. One thing that's really critical, like for this dead stick rod, this is a pretty specific rod. This is actually a 30-inch Tundra, but it's what it is. St. Croix Tundra, but it's very, very light, see, and it's a very, very parabolic action, so it's quite soft, and that gives me all the deflection I need to watch it. And you'll notice that I just taken it on a bucket, or I could have it in a rod holder. Actually, I like a bucket like this because you have direct access to pick it up really pretty quickly. The bucket sort of maintains it in its position, but that really soft action, because all of a sudden the fish grab the bait, and almost every time it doesn't go down hard, it just bends down like this, goes down softly like this, and then you just lift up and you got them. But it works really good. It's not only for, in this case I'm fishing for walleyes, but we do the same thing for crappies, trout. We use a very similar rod like that. Even in the Great Lakes for those great big brown trout, you almost fish an exact carbon copy of that type of style of fishing. There he is, he's right on the minnow. He's right on the minnow. Got him, there, yep, there we go. The dead stick produces again. Ooh, got a sportier one there. Let's see. This is a Red Lake special. It's why people come up here, is because it's just an amazing bite for perfect eaters. Oop, come here, buddy. Ooh. Oh, come here, buddy. Oh, look at this guy right here. He's a perfect. Ooh, he may be a little bit too perfect. Look at that. But you see how that treble hook gets him. All you do is lift up. The real key with that dead sticking, we'll keep this guy here. I can keep 1 over 17, and this is my over. Beautiful fish, though. Look at that guy, gorgeous fish. Beautiful animal, aren't they? These guys here, you can see one thing, in Red Lake, they got a lot of food.